Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another World of Tanks episode with Slim Phoenix. Sorry I've been away for a little bit, but I am back, and I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about free XP research and some module management. Um, so one of the things with World of Tanks is the upgraded or more expensive or higher tier modules aren't necessarily the best. In my experience, you have to do a little bit of research and kind of know what you're looking for, kind of what you have the tank set up for, in order to know which module is going to be best for you. For example, have the one second VK3001P here. If we go into the research category and we compare some of the stats, for instance, this tier 7. Granted, this one is the highest tier, but a lot of people will argue the fact of a higher caliber is usually better. And these usually end up being what is called a derp gun. As you can tell in this case, it's 7.5 rounds per minute, and average penetration is dismal. So it's 64 millimeters of penetration with a standard round. Premium round's 104, and then HE is 53. But as you can see below there, the average damage is 350. So this packs a punch, and you have to usually remember that the larger the caliber of the gun, the slower the shell velocity is. So that's something you have to take into consideration when you're figuring these numbers out. Let's see, the tier 6. A lot of times the module that's right before the next tank, if it's on that line, is the best one. But you can see here, right now I have the 8.8 centimeter KWK 36L56. And the reason I have that is, for me, penetration is king. And that's on a scale with the damage. Obviously, if it has really high penetration but really low damage, then that's something that I usually will go more against. This is primarily just because I tend to aim at the weak points and find better places to get through with the lower penetration. So like this one's got 145, and we'll just consider the standard ammo on this one. So 145 millimeters of pen, 220 damage. So this tier 5 here is 64. That's the derp that we were just looking at. The 64 millimeters of pen, 350 average damage. But that 350 you're not going to do all of, because if it doesn't penetrate, then you're pretty much just throwing shells at enemies and doing no damage. If you run the HE out of this gun, which I probably would end up doing, then you'll usually at least get a portion where you'll do 150, maybe 200. And the nice thing about HE is you don't have to aim for weak spots. Usually you can aim in a broad area where there's thinner armor. So for example, you aim at the side plate on someone's side scraping, maybe the side of the turret, and you get through that way. But you kind of have to know what you're looking for. So this one here has better penetration. As you can tell, it's got a faster rate of fire. So 13 rounds a minute versus the 8.7. Let's actually pull these up here. So the way you do that, if you don't know, is you right click and you can go to characteristics and you can actually do a side-by-side comparison. So 88 millimeters versus the smaller 75 millimeters, which usually the smaller caliber means better penetration. It's not always the case though. 8.7 versus 13 rounds per minute. And the one I'm running right now is the 8.8, which I'll probably stick with. So you've got 135 damage versus 220. So the dispersion is 0.38 at 100 meters and 0.35. So this one, the 7.5, is a little bit more accurate. But another thing you have to take into consideration is the average damage per minute on this one is 1913. Down here, it's 1761. So you're giving up about, I'll call it 150 damage per minute. because of it has a higher rate of fire, but it's got a lower amount of damage that it does, but it does have higher penetration. So it's debatable on whether I'd go between this one or the 88. It does have 0.35 dispersion, which is a little better, like I was saying. So um, it just kind of depends on what you've used before. Like I've driven a lot of German tanks with the 88 on it, and it seems to handle pretty well. The aim time's not horrible, but it usually gets some pretty good results. So I'll probably end up sticking with that on this. Um, and there's other modules. Different people do them in different sequences. You can tell. Let's see if I actually have anything in my garage that needs to be upgraded. Let's see. So there's a way to tell whether or not something like the suspension. A lot of people will say do the suspension first, and the reason for that is because you don't want to grind through the research on a gun, for example, and then you research the gun and go to install it, and you can't install it because you don't have enough carrying capacity for your suspension, i.e. your tracks. So it's something you have to take into consideration. Let's see what do I know that has a bigger gun that needs. Oh, so let's say the T30, for instance. Going down this line, let's look at the weights. So we have 2,400 kilograms. This 120 is 2,790, and then the 155 is 3,371. So in order to get this this on there, I'm not sure exactly, but I think you have to get the tracks before you can. So you have to get these upgraded suspension to carry the load limit of 69.05 tons in order to get this bigger gun on here. And let's see, does it show? Yes. So the research, just the research on this top 155 millimeter gun for the T30, which for me is a no-brainer. I mean, you have to have this thing because you pop out. You don't want to expose your tank as very much. So you pop out, take a second to aim, do 700 damage, and then disappear again, hopefully. But so 6,600 or 66,500 research to get this gun. So if you ground 66,500 research to get this, and you weren't able to install it, that would mean you would have to grind an additional 22,500 after you already bought this gun, whereas you could have done this before, and then when you get the gun, then you can just install it right on there. So it's something to look at, and the only way that I've found to be accurate with that kind of thing. Let's see, let's go to one of the tanks that I'm actually grinding at the moment. IKV 90 Type B. So this one, okay, so this one I don't have anything on. So you can see here that the weight is in red, but the word weight itself is not in red. Usually, and I'm not sure if this is part of my mod or if it's actually World of Tanks. I usually don't play World of Tanks vanilla, so I don't have a chance to come in here and look at it and see that. But with the mod pack that I have installed, we can do a quick comparison. So let's go back to the garage on this tank. And let's see, is that mobility? Yeah, they also changed, here we go. So 13.25 of 13.5 total load limit. So we have, let's see, 0.25 that we can add to this before we hit the load limit. So let's look at the guns, for example. 815 kilograms versus 1,030. So that takes us up. So do a little bit of math. 815 to 1030, we'll call it 200. It's about 215, but so there's 200. That leaves us with 0.05 kilograms that we can add. So let's see the engine difference: 940 and 940. So we can upgrade the gun and the engine on this tank without having to worry about getting these tracks, which is nice because you don't have to go down to especially at lower tiers, because if you grind accurately and efficiently, you're not going to be in those lower tiers for very long, unless obviously if you want to keep it or play it. In that case, sure, do whichever modules you want. But if we go to, let's back up here. So let's say that I was still down at the M43. So to get the IKV 103, it was 10,800 research. So if we add up all the modules, for example, so this one was 3,800. Obviously, we have to go down this line, so let's just exclude that. So let's just say the radio, let's see, there's 350, 3,200, so there's 3,550, 160, so we'll call it 3,710, and 1,040. So you're looking at 38,000 research. So 38,000 XP in order to get all this stuff ground out. Does it help the tank play better? Yes, but you also have to weigh that against the cost of 10,830 XP in order to research the next tank. So you're looking at almost half of the additional research just to get these other modules in here so that you can actually, upgrade, play better. And if you figure a daily double, depends on how well you play, but you can figure 1,000, 2,000 on a ×2 typical day for your first victory. And the way I usually do it is I'll just go through and I'll grind, and I'll do my daily doubles, and then I'll move on to the next tank. And then I usually jump into a premium tank and grind some credits. So I'm getting as much as I can out of these on those doubles. So if you do that every day, I mean, obviously if you grind it, you get there a lot faster. But if you have multiple tanks that you're grinding, then you can go into your doubles and then, however you want to do it. But it's something you have to take into consideration. Me personally, depending on the amount, for example, let's actually go back to the one I'm on now. So for this IKV-90B, we need 104,000 to get up to this UDES. So let's see, we got to do that one anyway. So let's look at the other ones. 4,000, and we'll just round them up. There's another, oh wait, yep. Okay, so we'll call that 9,000, we'll call it 9,500. There's another 5,200, so we're looking at 14, plus another 8, so 22. We're still way less than a quarter of the XP that it's going to take to research this UDES. So this I would probably deem worth it. Radios maybe a little less so. So you can do them in whichever order you want, but for the lower tiers, things that don't take a lot of time to grind to the next one, because you can grind through tier 1, 2, and 3 in a day easy with minimal effort. But in order to get up to these higher ones, obviously that takes some more time. Whether it's a month or a couple months, especially if it's 9 or 10. But and the amount of time you're able to put into it each day. So keep in mind, what you're researching, what you're not. The other thing to pay attention to is what you need for the next tank. So let's go back to the garage here, and we'll go back to that VK. So because I played a different German line already, I have most of these researched. So, so is it necessary to go down this line? Because I already had it researched, so I didn't even have to come in here and grind through the VK3001P and get this gun. I already had it. All I had to do is pay for it. But is it really worth going through here? Because you got to go through these. So if I didn't already have this researched, it's entirely possible that I would have just gone down the line here and ended up here, because this one is close to the 88. It's a little less performance because of the lower DPM, but it's only 45,000 to the Tiger P, so it's something you have to take into consideration. The other thing you have to keep in mind is your free XP, which I typically only use for getting modules and things like that. Obviously, right now I'm really low on free XP, um, but I do have a bunch that I could exchange relatively easily, or excuse me, convert. So, but some people will sit on it and not even think about it until they have something that they really want, and then they can just use that free XP to fly through the various tanks. But personally, I think it's better to kind of use it as I go. I'll usually, like, if you run into something that's just a pain in the neck grind, then it comes in really handy. So it's something you just, you gotta do your own weight on. Um, the other element is module management. So because I've already had these on previous tanks, it's already researched, um, and that's something you don't lose. But had I known that I was going to go down this line a long time ago, when I went down, let's see, I think it was the 88. Ah, yes. So it's, when I went down these other lines, where I lost my place. Where did that week? Okay, here we go. So is it worthwhile to hang on to these? Probably not. You can look in the armory. So here's the list of the modules that I'm actually keeping. Some of them are for guns that I already use, or may need for clan wars or campaigns or tournaments, that kind of thing. And so we can look and mount on T29. I do actually have another one, probably from the T32, something similar. So it's just, you want to keep things that are relatively expensive, like this 107 we can sell for 34,000, but the actual purchase cost, I'm pretty sure, was much higher than that. It's usually at least double. So you can save yourself a little bit of money just by coming in here and taking a look at this stuff. And I mean, if you have a lot of tanks, you can kind of run that kind of thing. I do recommend to maximize your credits and your experience. It's nice to have premium vehicles that you can run to not only gain credits, but you can put the crews from the tanks that you're grinding into them and get those crews leveled up as well. For instance, on this VK30-01P, you can see that I've got a couple crew that I had in the previous tank and a couple that are new. Well, they're not new per se, they've got 58 battles, but I retrained them from other tanks that didn't need them anymore. So, and once you get the lower tiers, it's hard to get your crews trained, because you can accelerate crew training, and then every game you play, instead of getting free XP, it goes into to crew training. So it basically boosts whichever crew member is the lowest. So usually, if you're not keeping the tank, as soon as you get to that next tank, and you're like, okay, we're gonna buy that. So you'll research it, you'll buy it, you'll transfer the crew from the old tank, and you'll get rid of that. So your crew automatically takes a hit. They're down. Like here, you can see they're not at 100%. They start down, and you got to work them back up to 100% just to get your research going on the other skills and perks. So it's a balance game, and keeping tanks that for crew training is nice to do. Usually they have to be premium. Depending, I also have, as you can tell if you didn't notice before, is I do have a premium account, and I do have a handful of premium vehicles that I run. Usually just to train up crews, and it's nice because if you have a decent game, you can usually get, we'll call it 50,000 credits. So you figure one game, 50,000, that's enough for, at least during normal right now, there's a sale going on retraining, so you can do it for 10,000. That's another thing that you have to consider, is keep in mind that if you want to spend less credits, and you can manage to align when you need to retrain a crew to the tank, that if you can wait and do it when it's on sale, you'll save a whole bunch. For example, the E100 here has 6 crew members. If you're 20,000 a piece to get them to that 90%, yeah, let's go in here. So right now it's on sale for 10,000, but so 20,000 credits just for the median. 20,000 times 6, you're looking at 120,000 credits just for retraining your crew, just so they'll fit on that next tank that you bought. Do it during a sale, you're only spending 60,000. If you have a premium vehicle and a premium account, you can do 1, maybe 2 games and get the amount of credits you need to retrain the entire crew. So that's just something to keep in mind. Obviously, different people do it different ways. Some people will not use any of their free XP to grind modules, and if you don't click the accelerate crew training button, then that XP on tanks that are fully researched just keeps building and building and building. And if you have the gold input, you have enough gold coming in, then you can use that gold to convert that experience on tanks that have already been fully researched. You can convert that into free XP. So some people do it that way. I don't have enough gold coming in on a steady basis to do that. But yeah, it's something you kind of have to figure out. But that's basically the ins and outs of it. You only get a small portion of free XP, and it is really nice to have when you come across a grind that is just a nightmare. Because then you can just use that free XP. You know what? This tank in this line is just horrible. The next tank is a lot better. So you can free XP through the tank and get to the next one. And then your misery is, well, hopefully over. But another thing that people use it for is, and a lot of the better players do this, they'll save up free XP and they will not drive a tank unless it is fully researched. So they'll research the next tank. They may even go in and add up how much it's going to take to research everything and save that amount. And then once they get that amount, they'll go to that tank and they'll research all the modules, and then they'll buy it. And you can actually just throw the tank together, and you're playing at 100% upgraded tank. So you're playing that tank at its best. Obviously, there's a dependency on crew, but that is your best way to do it. I don't do it that way, but that's just because I like playing tanks, and the grind. The grind can be fun because you learn the weak points of tanks when you're playing it when it's not maxed. Because you have to be versatile, and you have to, know whether you can pop up or know which tank is slow. I can't go over here, because it'll challenge your gameplay so that you have to actually up the ante in order to play better in that tank. Because I have friends of mine who swear certain tanks are just garbage, and I look at my stats in that tank, and it's like, oh, well, I didn't do too bad in that tank. I don't know what your problem was with it, and it's just different people have different play styles. And some people play tank destroyers better, some people play heavies or mediums. It all varies, but you have to do what works for you. So find a strategy for making the most out of your free XP, and whether it's you save modules for a tank that you want to get down the road, things like that, because you can hold a lot of modules in your armory. Before I cleaned mine out, I bet I had easily 100 different modules in there. But figure out what works best for you, and if you can do that and you can manage to, if you can afford a premium account and you can run some premium tanks to get your crews trained and help with the free XP, things like that, then you'll be able to set up your tank better and get better crews that are better trained in those tanks, and you'll notice that your gameplay improves, even if you're not really familiar with the tank. but gives you the best edge. So, keep it in mind. I think that'll wrap up today's episode. So don't forget to share and hit the like, leave your comments below, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.